Okay, things to know about the study guide. Iranian Constitution of 1979 does not serve individuals. It guides everyone towards Allah, which also means that the supreme leader has the most power. The president does have a lot of power. However, the supreme leader has the last say. In the Constitution created in 1906, it was modeled after the Western countries and constitutions. It did have separation of powers, popular sovereignty, and Bill of Rights. However, when the Shah took over, it got rid of this Constitution of 1906. President Khatami, what you need to know about his policies: the Tehran Spring, political liberalization, open economy, freedom of speech and press. For the supreme leader, like I mentioned, has the most power in the country, is appointed the leading jurist to interpret Sharia law, can eliminate any presidential candidates, which is also known as vetting, can dismiss the president, commands the armed forces, declare war, and nominate any 6 members to the Guardian Council without approval. Iran has been different because they base their government off a theocracy or religion. 90% of the Muslims are of Shiite Muslim descent in Iran. Leading up to the revolution, individuals that followed the supreme leader were upset with the relationship that the Shah had with the West, and the Shah was kind of like a puppet, so they based their ideas off of religion. Under the Shah, women were not allowed to get an education, weren't very important. That has opened up a little bit. However, they have to wear the hijab or the headscarf. They do have to get permission from male relatives to do a lot of different things. Individuals directly elected by the Iranian voters are those who are serving in the Majlis, your president, and your assembly of religious experts. Again, you have to file a petition to try to run, and you can be vetted, which does not allow you to be on the ballots. Mao's revolution, Iran's revolution were similar because they had a charismatic leader. They wanted to get rid of what was going on in society. So in Iran, they got rid of all secular views, organizations. They jailed journalists and scholars. The jurist guardianship, clergy have full authority over the entire Shia community. They are the interpreters of law. I mentioned already, after the Constitution of 1979, they tried to get rid of all secular Western ideas. They arrested or eliminated scholars and journalists. Khatami, I mentioned his Tehran Spring already. The Green Revolution, or the Green Movement of 2009, was after the fraud accusations by Ahmadinejad's opponent, where they thought that he was receiving more votes than he should, and small groups came out in protest dressed in green. However, the Revolutionary Guard was sent out by the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, to prevent the growth of that revolution. One of the checks on the supreme leader's powers is that the assembly of religious experts can dismiss the supreme leader. They are also the group that appoints the supreme leader. The Queen of England versus the supreme leader. The difference there is the supreme leader actually has powers and is not just a figurehead. Your policy-making bodies, or the individuals that write laws and legislation, in the Majlis and the Guardian Council. The president, which seems like the individual does not have that much power, is the head of government, is elected by the people, can sign treaties, develops budgets, selects the cabinet and the vice president. The Majlis is made up of 290 members, it's a single-member district, can enact and change laws, does have to approve of 6 members of the Guardian Council, which was appointed by the Chief Justice, and can remove any of the President's cabinet members. Individuals that must be clerics are those serving on the Supreme Court, the Guardian Council, and the Supreme Leader. The Revolutionary Guard, or the military in Iran, helps make policy decisions just like in China. Theocracy is government ruled strictly by religion. Your Expedience Council is kind of like a referee, disputes anything between the Majlis and the Guardian Council when they cannot agree on legislation. There's 32 members and they're all appointed by the Supreme Leader. The idea of a rentier state, states which derive all or a substantial portion of their national revenues from the rent of an indigenous resource, so oil in the case of Iran, and they rent that out to foreign companies, and they rely on that revenue for their country. There's not much political competition because a lot of candidates are vetted, and most of the candidates that are vetted are reformists and moderates. Also, transparency. Media is controlled by the state and owned by the state, so they cannot speak out against the government. An authoritarian regime, one leader or small group of leaders hold the power, limit civil liberties, and there's a lack of transparency. Corporatism, again, a review here. There's lacking of civil participation because the government controls and limits how many organizations the individuals in the country can have. Parent-client system in China. There's factions competing for power in the government. China and Russia both have legislative branches that are weak. The executive branches are very strong. Media in China increase in investigative reporting, and there's also a control of media on the national level. One of the purposes of nomenclatura is to recruit political leaders. A lot of times they are given favors as well. Rule of law in China, not significant under Mao. It is acknowledged today, but doesn't mean they follow it. In an illiberal democracy, there are always elections. Doesn't mean they're fair, but they do have elections. The Federation Council and all other upper houses are usually created to provide a check on all the lower houses. And Kanun is not sacred base. These are laws or statutes that the Majlis will write, but however, they cannot violate the Sharia law. There's a quick overview for you. Good luck.